So hello and thank you patiently waiting. We are starting a little bit behind the schedule, so let's try to do the welcome very quickly, so none of the speakers need to stress out. I'm Mika Tuomola, and I run here in Aalto University School of Arts, Design and Architecture, the Department of Media. I'm running a Crucible studio, which is a storytelling research studio in digital media. And in the last 3 years, we've been very active with Professor Marja Seliker, who will be addressing audience after Michelle Teran, looking at the city as a visual, audiovisual and narrative platform and how to build up projects on that. So the CitySets project found an interesting partner in EU Culture Project, City Noises, the coordinator of which Rob McNeil unfortunately cannot be present in the event. But we have Minna Tarkka from MCult, and we have Susa Pop from the Public Art Lab, and who is coordinating the media facades. And so welcome, and we'll give you guidance through the day. As you know, the program is tight. We have a whole exhibit to see after this seminar. So will you, Minna, take the floor?
Hello, so I'm Minna Tarkka from MCult, and we're happy to cooperate with Crucible and Aalto on this seminar and bring together a lot of European and also our own Finnish thinking about urban media, which is a really complex and interesting topic. We are organizing the Media Facades Festival for the second time now in Helsinki. And our main events and the venue is Lasipalatsi Square in the center. Last time we organized it in 2010. It was actually with Susa Pop here, and it was called Media Facades Festival Europe 2010. And this year it's only Helsinki and right now that has events, but the great news is that we have a wonderful big network project for 4 years, Connecting Cities network. And so in the coming years we will be doing the festival again in a wonderful co-production network. So Susa Pop Public Art Lab will tell you a little bit about the network and say welcome from my part as well. Thank you.
Yes. Hello, everybody. My name is Susa Pop. I'm from Public Art Lab. First of all, thank you, Minna, for hosting the launch of the Connecting Cities Network. Officially, it is named a European Urban Media Network for Connecting Cities. And it is a 4-year program where we will build up a Europe-wide urban screens and urban media facades network for the circulation of artistic art, and of course will produce also a lot of interactive artist projects with media facades. And we follow 3 city visions. So we have 3 topics, main topics every year. In 2013 it's the networked city. Then we have in 2014 the participatory city, and in 2015 the visible city. Because through our work with media facades, we initiated the first Media Facades Festival in 2008 in Berlin, and then 2010 with our European partners. We really found out that there are these 3 I would say aspects of participation, then data visualization and connectiveness are very interesting aspects what we should explore all together with our wonderful network that will be here in Helsinki now. And so I give back to Minna. Thank you.
Thank you, Susa. And of the 3 topics of the Connecting Cities Network, I would say that our Media Facades launch event very much highlights the participatory aspect. The project that we're going to see are maybe more complex socially often than technically this year. So I'm really looking forward, and it's a totally different type of producing and curating when you're doing it with a load of different people. But I'm very happy that in this topic we have one of my favorite artists, Michelle Teran, who is showing her new work. It opens at 12, and we have a little opening ceremony at the gallery 8:30. Michelle is Canadian-born, Berlin-based and Bergen-based artist, and in the last years, she has been working very much with YouTube and sort of, in a social process of tracking down people who publish stuff on the YouTube and doing different interactions with them. But Michelle, is better that you come over and take the floor and explain your artistic practice. Thank you.
Phone? Oh, yeah. Okay. Well, thanks for inviting me, Minna, and let's see how this talk goes. There's always a bit of nervousness when I start, but I'm going to talk about mainly a project that I developed for Media Facades Helsinki called Urban Takes Helsinki. And what I did for this project is I'm looking at the different stories and perspectives of Helsinki that is depicted through online video, working in collaboration with 7 amateur video makers that are living in Helsinki who post their videos on YouTube. Before I start to talk about this project, I thought I'd just map out certain parameters of my practice and the way I'm working. And so I wanted to start to talk about the city as a mediated construct, and starting with the when. So I want to tap into a couple of anchor points just to see how the city is and continues to be a mediated construct. So here's an ad from the late 19th century, around 1890s. And this is the first portable camera that was issued by Kodak. It's a Brownie camera. And this was one of the first cameras that were made available for people so they could easily carry it around, making a whole generation of amateur photographers. Everything was, let's see if I can. So what people start to do is they start to capture their own sort of representations of urban space. This is very carefully researched in Eric Gordon's work, The Urban Spectator, from which I'm drawing some of these examples. So what happens when you introduce the portable camera is people start documenting their experiences of moving through the city, where the urban experience starts to become a series of captured sites. That is, sites that are dissected into different parts, which start to become assembled as a total vision of the city. So it's not about seeing the city as an entirety, but about all of these different sort of perspectives and views. At the same time, this is the White City. This is the Chicago World's Fair of 1893. And historically, the World's Fair was usually highlighting different technological innovations. This was the first example of it highlighting architecture, and specifically the idea of a white city as a concept city, showing the conditions of modern life, but specifically how it would be photographed. So the architecture was all one color, the design was homogeneous, and so it was really set up as a space to be photographed. And so it becomes an image city. So the city is perceived as how you would frame it. Now, at the same time, so you have like these amateur photographers and this new idea of the official city, of the concept city. You have the emergence of official guidebooks. So while the White City was being constructed, it was also being photographed to showcase, make it very interesting for people to come to. So this creates like an official guidebook of official views of how that city should be photographed. At the same time, amateur photographers were coming into the White City with their portable cameras and taking their own versions of that. And it becomes like this real battle between unofficial and official viewpoints. So there was attempts for these amateur photographers to be restricted. They could only come in if they had paid a huge fee for permission, but eventually that was overturned. So at this kind of like pivotal point, you have the city as something that becomes an image, and also you have people that are making their own images of the city. So this becomes a process of creating a vision of the city through the process of creating images in it. So the camera starts to be used for recording and storing experiences, and our understanding of urban space is manifested through the production of images. Another thing that's very interesting to note is once you start to insert like this process of image production within your experience of being in the city, it actually affects like how you are understanding the city in a corporeal sense. There's an awareness of your body in relation to space. You understand like where you are in reference to the buildings, because you are also trying to figure out how you're going to frame yourself. So this is Eric Gordon's term. It becomes a process of possessive ownership, that you're experiencing something by recording it, which affects the way that you look and experience the city, even when the camera's not there. So what I'm talking about and what I'm interested in and related to my work is like this idea of these unofficial urban archives. So there's images being produced of the city, but they also create like archives of the city. So I talked about the process of image production, but now I'd like to talk about archives. So what we're seeing now in a contemporary sense, well, if you talk about like archives in a historical sense, it's the collection of documents for future use. This is a quote from Chris Marker. How do people who do not film remember anything? So for him, a memory does not exist without an image. So the process of documenting something is the process of recording something, recording and remembering. So I'm not speaking about institutional archives. I'm very interested in personal archives. And this is some examples of personal archives. In a contemporary sense, it's still sort of mapping in the same kind of processes of collecting things for future use. But there's something very, very different about that. And so I'm working with social archives. And when you start to work with social archives, it actually changed the whole sort of notion of what an archive is. So here's an example of just some screen grabs that I found of different collections of different people on YouTube. So traditionally you have like a personal archive, which is something very controlled and contained. You don't have access to somebody's picture album or somebody's Super 8 films. But what's something new, what is something that is very new about it is that you're mapping technical processes with social processes. So technical processes are something that are dealing with processes of software and networks, where social ones is more people are seeing what you're personally putting online. You have the personal that has become very public, as well as these different collections starting to become interconnected. So there's a process of collaboration, feedback, relation of one thing to another, et cetera, et cetera. So there's also this notion of something that is overlooked, that is considered not valuable, can be seen as valuable to somebody. So somebody's trash is somebody's treasure. So if you link it and reuse it, and then it takes on a new life. And so there's this essence of uncontrollability of how the material that you're putting online is going to be used or perceived. I'm also very interested in the ideas of digital preservation, and this is sort of related to the issues of memory and permanence, because what I found is that there's this whole sort of idea that once you put on something online, it's permanent. But what happens is that these archives are constantly shifting. They're being rewritten and revised and erased. So I'll go to some place and I've been looking at something, and then I come back and it's no longer there. So you can't sort of rely on the permanence. Of course, like when you put something online, you're dealing with this process of obsolescence too. And these sort of archives of these that are on YouTube, they're all sort of dealing with like more sort of constrained time periods. So something that happened 5 years ago seems like very, very long time ago, and something that you don't know what's going to happen 5 years from now. So the sort of notions of time are very, very sort of constrained into the recent past and the soon-to-be future. And so what you start to do is start to perform excavations of the recent past. Lastly, one area that I'm working with is this process of geotagging. And so geotagging is when you put information onto videos, and that starts to remap them back onto the city where they take place. So it's very easy to access this information. You have public APIs that are provided by different social media platforms like YouTube, Twitter, and Flickr. And that allows people to assemble, categorize, and start to make their own kind of interpretations of publicly available data. So we start to read the city and navigate through the city through this information that you're putting online. So these are the areas that I'm working with when I'm developing the work. And I just wanted to introduce a software that I developed a couple of years ago, and that's what I'm doing most of my work with. And this is a software that uses a public API. And what I can do is I start to, for example, in Helsinki, I can put in the location of Helsinki, and it pulls together all of the location attributed videos on YouTube within that area. So I first of all, I put that in, assemble it, and have a look at different sort of collections and views of the city. So for this project here in Helsinki, I started to first collect, do sort of searches of these different videos in Helsinki, look at them, and then pull out certain people that are living in Helsinki that have like substantial collections of videos. So instead of sort of looking at just like a random collection, I start to isolate different people that are living in Helsinki that are creating their own personal archives about city. And so this is an example of one of the people that I found. So this is an output of some of the people that I have been working with. The way I did it is first I did the research when I was in, between Bergen and Berlin. And then I started to study those collections a little bit more. And I wanted to, they're all different sort of views of how they see the city and their place in it. So I wanted to research that a little bit more, first by looking at the collections, and then going to see these people in their either living environments or places that they've selected. So a public place that is in some way sort of related to them. So it's a discussion about the collections that they have, and the collections are related to their relation and connection to their personal sort of process of image production, how that is connected to the spaces in which they live in, and asking basic questions about when they started and why, what inspires them to make these videos in the first place, who are these videos for, the questions about if they're personal archives, why should they become, why show them to the general public? Why are they interesting to the general public? The sort of value of videos, and also if they're going through the city and constantly document it, does it change the experience of being there? So I'm just going to finish by playing some excerpts of these video interviews. So the process was, I would go to their homes, I would ask them to make a selection of their collection of videos. They would play them, they would talk about them, and I would ask them certain questions during the way. That is from that, there's been 7 video interviews created, so there's 7 different videos, and then a number of photographic works that are installed in the gallery, and then a playlist of the videos that are on YouTube. But I was very interested in just simply letting people talk about their images, tell stories about their images, and just sort of see where the conversation went. And so it's a very sort of semi-structured way of working. So I think I'll just play a couple of segments. And so we need some sound.
Quite a large place, empty place for many years. I don't
Is there
know
sound?
what they had there
Yeah?
before,
Okay.
but when I came to this area, it was a parking lot, so there was nothing for years. I heard
Yeah,
maybe
it's
10,
connected.
12 years ago that they are going to build a hotel building there, but
We tested it before.
it was 10 years.
Yeah, it's coming from computer, isn't it?
Yeah, but
Yeah.
you have to reconnect it from the
From there,
what's asetukset?
From the control
yeah,
panel.
from the
You
control
have to
panel. Just
yeah.
put
But
it
I
to
just,
the USB.
and just take the USB.
we did test,
It
oh,
lets
okay.
it's off.
Okay,
Yeah,
so we
okay.
turn off again.
Quite a large place, empty place for many years. I don't know what they had there before, but when I came to this area, it was a parking lot, so there was nothing for years. I heard maybe 10, 12 years ago that they are going to build a hotel building there, but it was 10 years when they finally started to build that building. Well, I also have a photo of this place, empty parking lot, but this video starts from quite deep hole they have dug in that place, and they removed some soil there. It was there was something wrong with that material, and they took it away. And then I took pictures every now and then, usually on weekends, not so very often, but and quite irregularly. But anyway, I took these pictures and got an idea later to combine them as a short video. And these are still pictures. This is not exactly a video, but it shows you how the building is growing up, and even the finished construction you can see in the last picture.
Why was it important for you to make photographs of this building being constructed and also make a video from it?
Well, first of all, I like architecture. I like to see how buildings are constructed, and I only took those pictures to see how the building is developing and constructed. But the video came later. I just put them in a row, those pictures, and thought that maybe I could use some application to show those pictures like a slideshow. And then I turned that slideshow as a video. I think this is quite unusual again. You cannot see these construction sites so many in Helsinki, in the middle of Helsinki. So this is quite unusual.
So this is another unusual
Yes.
situation that there's not a lot of building going on, or
I'm not sure, but I know that they have an empty space there again. It's quite near here, that site, and they are going to build a new building there, and I'm going to take pictures there as well.
is it something that you can see from your balcony, or?
Almost. It's the empty space is behind those buildings, but it's here in this corner after these buildings.
Are you from Helsinki?
No, I've been somewhere else before I came to Helsinki.
But you've lived here for
Yeah,
for
I've
years.
been living here for maybe 20 years now.
20 years. Okay. Who are they for?
Mainly for me. I like to see how my environment has been developing all these years, how it looked like 10 years ago, maybe 20 years ago, 10 years from now, and I like to see how the city was 10 or 20 years ago.
But this is fun because my friend Anna, who's afraid of the cameras, any kind, so she got to film like all the time. So it was really weird to just talk to the camera and not like direct it. So it was a fun day. She doesn't like cameras at all, so she wouldn't only take pictures of herself or want anybody to take pictures of her. So it's kind of weird, like I hang around with her the most and still like we don't see her in any of the videos.
Who do you think these videos are for?
I think it's for the people that like to see, like to read my blog and maybe just see like a little clips of my life. I don't know, maybe they're just for me that like, I feel like my life doesn't always move on, so I like to record the things that happens in my life. So I have a proof that actually something happens in my life. I'm not always sitting at home at my computer doing nothing. I guess I just like to show people that I am here, that I'm not just some other human being walking in the crowd. I'm an individual. Yeah, what's the word?
Individual.
Yes, thank you. I just want to show that I'm actually here, that I've done something, that I'm not living this life just to be somebody. I want to be someone.
The earlier ones that you showed me, do you sometimes look at it? Or?
Sometimes, but now I haven't looked at them in a really long time, so when I yesterday looked at them, I was I was laughing like half of the time when I looked at the videos, because first of all, I look really different from now, and like how I improve holding the camera and stuff like that. It's really different.
So what do you think will they be still here 5 years from now or 10 years from now, or?
I think they will be, because if YouTube is here, they will be there, because there are like memories that I put on the internet. So I look at my old blog posts too, so I like to reminisce things, because I'm not making diaries and stuff like that. So I think the internet is actually kind of a cool place to store memories and stuff like that. I'm thinking about doing a video about like explain everything that's going to happen, and maybe when we're moving, feel, because if I have a really crappy day, I don't want to feel that mood experience that I'm feeling like, oh gosh, I don't want to do this anymore. Right now, there's so many things happening at this thing, and I got a job, and I'm going to move away from my moms, and so many things are happening, and I just can't even believe it. It's totally. I'm out of my element. I'm usually like something happens to me like once a month. It's something little, and I don't know, it's weird. Well, the last one year's Pride video, is this the newest one?
Yeah, actually, this was on my list too.
Okay.
It's actually the only sort of public event.
Yeah.
I guess like going to the amusement park is a public event.
Yeah, but this is like the. I don't know, it was like, this was the first one when I took my little sister with me. This is a so good picture. So, this is actually filmed on the iPhone. It was the first time that I actually filmed the whole thing on it, so it was a little weird because it's so close. But it was fun. It was a nice summer day, and I just feel like I want to celebrate this thing with all the people, so why don't I make a video about it? It was, and then almost I wanted to share the memory that I'm taking my little sister to the first ride with her. You're not just being there anymore, you're sharing with people, like showing the thing where you are. You're like, maybe a little bit like look where I'm here or something like that. But yeah, I think it's weird because that's why I don't do concert videos anymore, because I feel like I just want to enjoy this as myself. I don't want to share it with anybody anymore. But some things like Pride and the happenings that happen, so I'm like, yeah, look at this. This is how a good thing happened to me. Oh.
That's actually the first time I've seen that one. Yes, I'm finished, actually. Yes. I could show another clip, but it just gives you an example. Yeah, I actually, no, I don't have another clip. These are just like these last minute, the videos were just finished last minute, so that's actually the first time I've ever seen that one. So it's a new thing for me too. So that's, and there's an exhibition tonight, so you can see all of the interviews in their entirety. Yeah.
So thank you very much, and what a beautiful documentary of this phenomena of the online. This is like a digital contemporary documentary making. But so we take just a couple of questions, because Michelle is going to be in the round table after a small break, just in a couple of hours' time. So we have a more discussive mode. But yes, a couple of questions.
Yeah, my question was, where are you showing the videos?
What's the name of the gallery, Mina? Lasi Palazzi Gallery. It's
what time was it?
8 o'clock.
8
is that
o'clock.
right? Yeah.
But in the end of the day,
The opening little reception, but it's open already at 12.
yeah, so it's open already when we finish the seminar. And also Minna and I, in the end of the day, will provide you with the Helsinki program for tonight, where all the artist shows. Today we are just having samples of the artworks, and then
They'll get the real thing afterwards.
So any other questions from the audience? Just raise your hand. Not so far. So let me ask you a question, because I was interested because I found the videos touching and the way people talk about the personal significance of those things. What is your process of how you select your subjects, and what material do you choose? You know, in the edit, what kind of directs?
Well, I actually wasn't involved in the editing, so that's. But I think the core was okay. The first thing is like what draws me to certain things and what doesn't, and it's a bit difficult to completely map that out.